I got to go find out who.
All right, we are live and off we go for another season, 2024. It is week number 1, and this is Friday Night Drive. I am your host, Matt Rodewald. Good to be with you here for this Friday evening. Steve Soucie, hello, sir. Nice off season for you, I trust.
Absolutely, but I'm ready to go. Let's get this thing going on, and we've got a lot of action that's hitting hard and heavy so far to start this week 1. So looking forward to breaking it all down.
Yeah, we're going to break it down. I believe you were planning on going out tonight. I know you went out last night, so we're going to get your thoughts on your first trip to Mount Carmel. I wanted to get your impressions of that. I got to watch Cary Grove for a half. It was a little rough around the edges, as it is for week 1. You were at Wilmington, I believe, tonight. Is that correct?
Actually, I decided not to go out.
You decided not to.
Yeah, I started to look around, and I'm like, well, I better. I want to keep track of like 8 or 10 games right now, and I don't know if I can do that from my phone. So I decided to stay home.
That makes sense. So let me ask you about Wilmington and Hope. Just what did intrigue you about going to see them tonight? And we'll see if we can learn when we get some scores coming in.
Well, I thought it was going to be actually a pretty good matchup of a couple of small school programs that kind of a contrast in styles, but boy, Wilmington really laid the wood to them. It ended up being a 43-6 final in favor of Wilmington. So Wilmington does what Wilmington tends to do, a nice, comfortable victory for them tonight.
All right, as you see, we'll get some scores up and show you some of the scores as we get them in. We already have some finals rolling in. We have some surprises, too, out of the gate, and we'll take a look at that. One final that jumps out to me is Prairie Ridge, first time with a new coach. 17-0. That offense continues to figure things out, and they're off to a good start in the Fox Valley. So the first things before we get to some highlights here, just your initial thoughts on Mount Carmel, the first time you've been there. I wanted to know what you thought of that, because I have not been there myself for a game there. So what was it like for you?
Yeah, I really like the venue. You know, it has a little bit of coziness to it, but still has enough to get quite a few people in there to see the games. It was a good crowd for a Thursday night game. But the Hun School from Princeton, New Jersey, a lot of big boys on that roster, maybe not a whole heck of a lot of depth. It felt like they might have been running out of gas a little bit in the second half, but they were able to put the accelerator down when they needed to. Almost 1,000 yards of total offense between the two teams, a ton in the first half. Hun School pulling out a 42-38 win over Mount Carmel. But that's one of those games that I think when you look back at it, I'm sure Mount Carmel doesn't like the loss, but they're going to learn a lot from that football game in terms of what they need to be better at, and because they have a lot of roster turnover from last year's state championship team. So yeah, they'll grow up in a hurry from that. Jack Elliott was struggling with some cramps late in the game, but he played like an absolute warrior in that game. They were the Hun School was bringing some big defensive linemen at him seemingly on every play, but he battled through, broke 4 tackles on a touchdown run earlier in the game. But like I said, this is a game that is going to go down as a loss. Only the 3rd loss at home in Jordan Lynch's coaching career, by the way. I was
kind of wondering that, yeah.
That was an interesting stat that I unearthed last night when I was looking through some stuff. But definitely one of those games where you look back at it, yeah, it's a loss, but it's going to be I think it's going to be a pretty educational loss for Mount Carmel.
Yeah, I think it's a great scheduling opportunity. I like moving it to the Thursday, and honestly, I think you're going to see more teams find their way to Thursday just as we get into the season. You don't have to do the old school 15 practices, so to speak. They don't hit nearly as hard in these in the August camps as they used to. So I think to have that extra day after week 1, you're just going to start to see some people figure that out. And I'm surprised people haven't, especially with the official shortages, where it's been like, well, we can't do a Friday game. Fine, we'll go Thursday to open the season. That way we get an extra day to get our way towards week 2. One of the things that I noticed just being I was watching Central and Burlington take on Cary Grove. The last time I saw Cary Grove, their offense was on the field for like an hour and a half against East St. Louis straight. This time around, they had to start on defense. First play of the game, interception. So their offense right on the field, right away there. I noticed this, and maybe you've noticed this last night, and you kind of alluded to when you talked about Mount Carmel, is the fact that you get week one, you get penalties, you get mistakes, you get the out of sync, kind of out of sorts stuff because of the lack of preseason. How do you feel that these week 0 scrimmages are going to help iron some of that out as they get used to these in the years to come?
Well, I'm hopeful that more people utilize them in the future. I don't feel like we really had as many programs take advantage of the situation. And I'll be honest, I don't care if you put it in a situation where you're playing a game per se. Even if you want to go out and let your team run 20 offensive plays against someone else's defense or something, just to have some repetitions against somebody other than yourself in kind of a game-like setting, I think is something that I think more teams hopefully will take advantage of in future years, because I don't think that the number was very high this year in participating programs, and maybe it was just a newness and trying to figure out what you wanted to do with it. But I'm hopeful that it maybe gets a little bit more steam in future seasons.
Yeah, I think as other states have done it for the last several years, I mean, some for decades. They're just used to this format. Sometimes they invite 4 teams and they just rotate to kind of get it going, like you're going to see a little bit with the girls' flag football this year. But I think it's just a matter of getting the data and figuring out how it works for you, and then going forward with it. So I think more people will jump in next year. So before we get to highlights, I just noticed with Cary Grove, their offense was in pretty good sync. No Logan Abrams tonight, something to pay attention to for the folks up in Cary and Fox River Grove. So we'll pay attention to that for the weeks to come. I don't know what the relation is for that, but I know that they had a little trouble getting things going, but they did get things going, which is such a hard thing to prepare for. A team like Central for Burlington, being week 1 2 years in a row, they had 3 months to look at film to get ready for week number 1,
right,
which makes it. And honestly, they had a good showing in week 1 last year. And so they were doing that as well. Right now, 27-3, they're in the 4th quarter in Burlington up in Rocket Hill. And so we'll get a final for that when we can. But that was one of those things. They had some sync issues to kind of get used to. And I'm wondering the fact that maybe the scrimmage aspect will play into that. So before we dive into the scores here, I want to make sure we play some highlights. I want to thank our staff for getting us going here on Friday Night Drive. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of what we've seen so far.
That's number 6, Luke Vanderwild for the quarterback sneak.
Big pretzel with cheese.
Michael Romero, the ball carrier. Touchdown, Geneva.
So you see that last clip there, and that being, of course, Brother Rice and Phillips. I got to see Brother Rice a couple times last year, Souce. They felt like a year away. What do they need to do to break through this year to kind of stand out in a very crowded, talented Catholic league?
Well, they've added a couple of people, and I think the biggest factor for them is that, at least so far, we've got a healthy Christian Pierce, and that's going to be a big difference for Brother Rice moving forward. As long as they can keep him on the field, keep him healthy, and he's performing at the level that he's capable of, I think we see another level with Brother Rice. I'm very high on the prospects of this team. Everybody in the Catholic League has to deal with a beast-like schedule. So, I mean, it may be a situation where they pick up a couple of losses along the way. But I do really like what Brother Rice has. Obviously, this is not the Phillips team that we're accustomed to.
Yeah.
I mean, they're down. Brother Rice really manhandled them tonight. I mean, they were up, I believe, 50-0 midway through the third quarter. So I was kind of expecting that, but basically for me, it's just keeping everybody healthy and on the field. And I think Brother Rice is a serious contender to do some serious damage this year.
Let's dive into some of the scores because we're getting them in right now. I believe Rolling Meadows in a tight one with Pekin. Actually, Pekin now with a 14-0 lead. That's someone we're paying attention to. Why? That's Robbie Gold's first game as a head coach for the Rolling Meadows Mustangs. I believe they're down in Pekin too. Is that correct, Souce?
Yes.
So that's
yes.
Quite the bus trip for him. Welcome to high school football. He was coaching last year as well over at Friend, but this is his first head gig. So that had to be quite the moment for him to ride that bus down to Pekin. St. Francis, this had caught your eye with the St. Francis Spartans and Kenwood. What's been going on in this one? They're in the middle of the third quarter right now.
Well, Kenwood has scored a couple of touchdowns, both on long passes, I believe. I've been monitoring this game. St. Francis just scored about 2 minutes ago to tie the score at 14. And then now St. Francis has the ball back again. So Kenwood must have just turned it over. They're at the 30. They're at the Kenwood 30-yard line right now. So might be able to kind of flip this over. But, Kenwood on paper, you look at it, they lost a lot of guys last year with Division I pedigree. I'm sure they had some talented players on that roster, but kind of a wild card coming into this game. And St. Francis obviously lost their quarterback from last year. But other than that, they have a ton back, especially in the wide receiving core. A lot of really talented athletes there. High expectations with the Spartans, but so far it looks like they just aren't quite really in sync with what the expectation is for them.
Yeah, that's again for them with the schedule they have, it's not one of those you better wake up, but it's one of those. Maybe this is the test that they need right out of the beginning of this thing, because they're going to be tested all the way down. And lurking in week 9, you do not want to rely on a matchup with Nazareth to get into the postseason. So you want to make sure you do the damage you need to do early on to put yourself in position for the postseason. I want to run down a couple of things, because one thing is surprising me right now. We mentioned PR, Prairie Ridge with a 17-0 win over Jacobs. By the way, Fenton, I want to get this out of the way. Fenton had a 10-game losing streak coming into tonight. They're beating Elgin Hanley, so it looks like they're going to get to 1-0. Good job for the Bison. Dunlop with a 20-0 lead on Galesburg. That was at the half last check. Dundee Crown with a 2-touchdown lead on Crystal Lake South. The Gators are trying to get back into that one. They're at the end of the third, 20-14. The Chargers in front. Evanston rolling on Highland Park. That's 28-0. That's early in the fourth. Now to the ranked games, because the one that caught my eye, Lincoln Way West is putting a hurting on Maine South right now. What's happening in that one?
Yeah, you misspoke there. Lincoln Way East.
Lincoln Way East. Yes, normally I get those right.
Yeah. So right coming out of the half, Lincoln Way East actually fumbled the ball away to Maine South. They scored to close the gap to 21-16. But then Lincoln Way East, shortly thereafter, responded with what I could basically describe as a flat pass, where for whatever reason, no one defended the Lincoln Way East running back coming out of the backfield. And whoever that was, I have a small screen over here. I'm not sure who it was. I haven't been able to identify who it was. Absolutely blazed his way down for like a 75-yard touchdown. And then a few minutes later, they scored another 65-yard touchdown run. That one was by Brody Gish. I'm sure of that one. So all of a sudden now, Lincoln Way East is up 35-16. And that one is in the late third quarter right now, it appears. So they have opened that one up, and they've demonstrated the big play capabilities of what I think that offense is going to be all year long.
You get the feeling that, with Maine South's offensive capabilities, they're not done, but that's a long hole to climb with, in a matter of 18 minutes of game time. I don't think they can climb out of it, but this is one of those where they're going to have the favorable coverages to try and get some sort of rhythm. That would be good tape for them as they go into the next couple of weeks here. So I think Maine South actually might end up figuring these next 18 minutes out that would be a benefit from a mental standpoint to help them in the following weeks. But boy, that shows you how good that Lincoln Way East team is.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. They've actually added another touchdown. It's now 42-16. So, and they're driving again. So we're still not out of the third quarter. So it would not surprise me if they tack on a little bit more. But that's going to be a high-powered offense. And when you look at it just on paper, they're going to put up a ton of points tonight. Maine South's a really good football team. I mean, I have them ranked number 6 in the FND Power 25 right now. They're obviously they're no slouches, but Lincoln Way East is just I think is going to be a super dynamic offense. And then they've got like 3 guys on the defensive side of the ball that have signed at Division I schools. So they're not too shabby over there either. So a really good football team with Lincoln Way East. They play a really strong schedule, but I think you're going to see a lot of these, to be completely honest with you. Games where Lincoln Way East offense is just far too much for the opponent to have to deal with.
It is a final in Burlington. Cary Grove, a 27-3 win over the Central Rockets. Honestly, that score shouldn't go, oh, maybe they're down. Typically what happens with Cary Grove is they got to figure things out with their offense, and it takes a few drives, a few series, and really a few games, as we've seen, for them to figure things out. As much as they won the 12-2 state champions from a year ago, they were 2 plays away from being 14-0 when you think about it. And so the fact that a 27-3 score is one that is not a slow start for them. I'll be very curious to see how they react next week, and if Logan Abrams is back.
Yeah, I mean that's a good solid start there. You get used to seeing I consider Cary Grove in some ways to be kind of just a lunch bucket football team. They do what they're supposed to do. You're not going to get, there's not going to be fireworks all over the place, but they do exactly what they're supposed to do. They are a taskmaster football team. They know what they're supposed to do. Everybody on that team knows their role and exercises it to the best of their ability. They've become a favorite team of mine to watch amongst the teams that I see, because I know when I see Cary Grove play football, they're going to do it the right way.
Warren Township is doing some damage on Hersey tonight. Have you got a chance to look at that and see what's going on up there in Gurnee?
Well, I got a fun offensive stat from the first half. Aaron Stewart, 15 carries for 287 yards and 5 touchdowns in the first half. All right.
One more time. I want to hear that one more time, just because it's
15 for 287, 5 touchdowns in the first half. They eased him back. He finishes with 361 yards rushing on the evening. He didn't score any more touchdowns. They allowed someone else to do it. But last I saw, they were up 55-20 over a pretty good Hersey team. So this Warren team was somebody that I felt like was flying a little bit under the radar with all the other conversations about Loyola and Lincoln Way East and 8A. But I think Warren wants to be included in this conversation. And with efforts like Aaron Stewart put out there tonight, I think that's they're saying, hey, we're over here too, guys. Don't forget about us.
If you're wondering records-wise, he would need 60 more yards from that 361 just to crack the top 20 of the individual games that the IHSA's had in their entire history. 593, the record DeAndre Hooper, who did it for Austin back a good 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago now. So, Warren putting some points on the board. That is a 55-26 score there, final minute as Hersey just put a touchdown on the board. They couldn't get the conversion on that. Let's go to York now, and Elmhurst. York and the Dukes, 28-10 on Glenbrook South. This is one of those games for Glenbrook South. If they had gotten it, you'd feel better. But if they don't, that's okay. And why? Because of the 4 and 5 factor. Their schedule is so friendly to that. If they can get to 4, you almost feel now they might be in the postseason come November.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we'll watch as the season goes along. I've talked to some people about this already. A couple of factors lead me to believe we had 6 get in with 4 and 5 records last year. It took you in the neighborhood of about 47 or 48 points to be in that discussion at the end of the year. But people like, if Glenbrook South, they're down 28-10 in this game right now. But if they were to lose a game like this, they have a little bit more cushion than, say, some other programs might if they do find themselves in that predicament where they finish the season at 4-5, because lots of discussion coming on, obviously, as the season goes along. But there are certain programs right now where I would say 5 wins necessarily. Sure, you want to get there, but I think you're probably going to be okay with 4.
Let's run down the top 15 or get down through the top 25, because we've talked about the top 15 for the most part, at least at what we can find at the moment. And maybe, Soucie, as you get a minute, you can kind of scurry around as I run down the games that we have in terms of just the schedule. In case you're just jumping on here, maybe you're leaving a game right now. You're sitting in the passenger seat while someone drives, and you're just wondering what's going on here around week 8 or week 1. I'm already trying to skip to week 8. Week 1, we're going to run through the scores that we have, run through the schedule that we know. I'm Matt Rodewald. He's Steve Soucie. We're glad that you're with us here on Friday night for week 1. So obviously tomorrow would be Loyola and East St. Louis, that game going on down to Normal. Lincoln Way East up big on Maine South and the number 6 ranked Hawks. Mount Carmel fell to the Hun School on a Thursday night game. We're watching Nazareth and number 16 Kankakee, the Roadrunners, winning that one, but still trying to hang on there. Brother Rice and the Crusaders up big on Phillips. Get a final for that momentarily. Downers Grove North, that's a week 1 road game to remember, going all the way down to O'Fallon to start things off. Tomorrow we'll have.
They had 0 problems in that game too, by the way. They won that game 42-0.
42-0. So that one's an easy one, a nice and easy breezy, and a 5-hour ride. It's bus trip time, which means it's going a little slower.
Yeah.
And so that's a long drive, but that'll be a fun ride back. Cary Grove, a 27-3 winner over Burlington Central. Warren up big on Hersey. That's an 11-22 matchup in our Friday Night Drive rankings. Number 12, Joliet Catholic in Iowa City. This is the return game at Joliet. Do we have a score of that one right now?
That's 50-22, a final in favor of Joliet Catholic.
Joliet Catholic starts the year at 1-0. St. Francis and Kenwood, keeping an eye on that. We'll come back to that one. We just got done talking about York and Glenbrook South. Chatham Glenwood hosting Edwardsville, the 15th ranked Tigers. Aside from East St. Louis, what jumps out at you about the teams downstate, especially in the Metro East area? Is there anyone that we should be paying attention to as these weeks go on that's not East St. Louis?
First of all, that Edwardsville game was canceled tonight due to weather.
Oh, because of the weather. That's right.
They pushed it to Saturday. But on that topic, I really like this Edwardsville team a lot. They were an underclassmen-heavy team last year, bring a lot of seniors in this year with a lot of experience. If anyone's going to give East St. Louis a run down there, traditionally it's Edwardsville. But this is a good athletic group that I like a lot. And I think, they tend to be on the bubble between 7 and 8A on a year-to-year basis. But I think whatever classification they're in, they're the kind of team that you get into the postseason. You're not going to want to see them on the other side of that bracket from you, because it's a good program. And historically, they're one of those teams that travels really well for some strange reason. I've seen them make that 5-hour trip up here to some North teams and seemingly jump off the bus as fresh as a daisy, like it doesn't even bother them. So that's what I like about that program. Another fundamentally sound team. They're a team that I'm definitely keeping an eye on as we move forward through the year.
Finish the schedule real quick. Number 18, Providence, was at Wheaton North. Number 19, Carmel at Grayslake Central. Tomorrow you'll have Rochester and the Rockets against Simeon at Gately. That's going to be fun to watch. Hinsdale Central at number 21, Naperville Central. They've turned into a fun rivalry. Geneva was up big. We're going to talk about that in just a second here, as the 23-ranked Vikings get a big blowout win over Larkin and the Royals. And for Larkin playing a non-conference game for the first time in a long time, we'll get to that as well. St. Charles North at number 24, Palatine, the return trip to Palatine for that one, and number 25, Prospect and Lions. Let's talk about Geneva, and Joel Bonitz was at that one, and I believe he has more on this one. Okay, we're going to get to Joel in just a second here, as this is how it goes. We're going to bounce around a little bit here. I want to see if we can check in. There's a game. There was a there we go. So for we talked about Brother Rice on the defensive side of the ball. They've been really good, but for Tyler Lofton, a 3-touchdown game. See if we can show that highlight there. He had quite the night. Brother Rice.
Hey, I love it. I love it. It's crazy. Like, I play with dogs. I got a huge O-line blocking for me. It's just, I wouldn't be, man, it's crazy. I love my O-line.
Did you feel like you wanted to show up for your new team? Obviously, you know, you got new guys and that kind of stuff. Did you feel like you really had maybe a little more pressure to kind of put on a good show today?
Yeah. It just, I mean, it's like, I don't know how to say it. I just had to show up with my boys. I love the team.
You're efficient, obviously, scoring 3 touchdowns and 56 yards. Is that going to be really important for you guys this year, just with what you want to accomplish?
I mean, we have a huge RB group, so it's not going to be like me all the time. We have dogs all around, so it's just we gonna get there.
So there you go. You know, I like the poise, and the first thing, you know, coaches are going to love this. First thing he says, "I love my O-line."
Yep.
You can't beat that. That's you just drill in your head, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely, and he's right about that. I mean, it's like they need to, you know, they're not going to have to. I don't think they're going to have to score a ton of points with the defensive capabilities that they have.
Right.
So as long as they stay on task and do the little things and grind out some points, put a few points on the board, I think their defense will take care of them in a lot of situations. So granted, their schedule's an absolute beast, but you know, with that team having a great defense to anchor around, the offense just does its job, and I think that those two things will be nice and cohesive and work together.
We've got to get to a break in just a second here, but we got a couple things I want to squeeze in before we do that. Plano with a 17-14 win over Ottawa. So Plano and the Reapers, they start at 1-0. Ottawa drops to 0-1. I want to see if we can show the Sycamore DeKalb ending here before we get to Geneva, because I was very, very intrigued. You know, I was leaving Burlington, driving to Geneva. So what was I able to do? I had to pop it on the radio. I was able to listen to that for a little bit here. And the atmosphere out in DeKalb at NIU for this game between these two rivals is always fascinating. It's always energetic. But when you get the game to match up with it, boy, it's something else. DeKalb driving, trying to get the game winner. Sycamore says, not so fast. Take a look.
Numbers pass is up to the end zone, and that's the ball game. Your final score.
Have you been to that game before, Souce? Have you ever been to this?
I never have. It's been, you know, one of those things that I'd like to be able to see at some point in time, but no, I've never seen that one. But obviously, a spirited rivalry between those two schools. I didn't know what to make of that game going into tonight. I kind of leaned towards Sycamore, but DeKalb gave it a good fight. Just obviously came up just a little bit short there at the end.
I coached for one whole football season at DeKalb as I was in the middle of COVID like everybody else. And what happens during COVID? They change the schedule. The 1 year I coached DeKalb, I did not get to do the Sycamore DeKalb game at NIU's Husky Stadium, but I've been there plenty of times for some state championships, so it's been amazing to see that atmosphere. Usually it's about 10,000 in that building for that game.
Wow.
Week one of every year. So it is something else for sure.
Real quick here with the top 25 here. Providence scored a touchdown with 2:26 left in the game to take a 22-17 lead over Wheaton North. That game has been going back and forth all night long. I'm kind of watching it. My feet is freezing up a little bit. It looks like Wheaton North has the ball inside the 15-yard line. So they, of course, are not updating the score. It still shows 0-0 on the screen. But I believe Wheaton North has the opportunity here to potentially win the game here inside the Providence, around the 10-yard line. But my feet is freezing up.
So you watch that as best you can. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to check in on Geneva, get a quick recap of that. And we're also going to fly around a little bit to see what happened with Princeton and Sterling Newman Catholic. So stick around. This is Friday Night Drive. Stay with us.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right. We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day. Come here and protect your interests. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
And we are back on Friday Night Drive. Matt Rodewald, Steve Soucie with you here. We are getting a bunch of finals rolling in, and we're going to get some recaps as well. So before we get to those recaps, Souce, what have you noticed so far as we've our first half hour in? We were watching St. Francis. They seem to sort of figure things out, or at least make it a little more a close game. What else is on your table right now?
Well, right now I'm still looking at that Providence situation. It's Wheat North. There was a long delay for some reason. I'm not sure what it was, but now it looks like we're about at the 10-yard line again, and they're lining up again here. But like you said, St. Francis seems to have gotten things back under control here. They scored again here in the third quarter. They now lead that game 21-14 near the end of the third quarter, and they might have just gotten a safety, it appears, as Kenwood was lining up inside the 5, and it looks like they have tacked on, or maybe that was a fumble. It looks like a touchdown. So now St. Francis appears to be up 2 scores. So
okay, why don't we do this? You keep an eye on that one. Let's get a recap of Geneva. An easy win tonight. Let's see what we saw from Joel Bonitz tonight at Burgess Field.
All right, we're here at Geneva High School. The game is just finished. Geneva with a dominant victory over Larkin, 63-0. Game was basically over from the start of the first quarter. They ended up with 6 touchdowns in the first quarter. Tony Cicchino, starting quarterback, finished the game with 164 yards and 4 touchdowns. 2 to Fittigan Wepner and 2 to Talon Taylor. I mean, just a dominant showing all throughout the game by the Geneva Vikings. Great showing for the first game. They're going to be facing off against Lamont next week, and it should be interesting to see how this pace keeps up. That's all I have.
And so that's how it goes for the Vikings. It's nice to see balance for them. They're going to need some help. It's got to be more than just Talon Taylor this year, and that's what they've relied on a little too much these last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely a situation where I think that if they can spread things around a little bit better and give themselves an opportunity, they're going to be a team to definitely keep an eye on. It looks like they're in pretty good position. The last I saw, Lamont was getting handled pretty substantially by Libertyville tonight. So looks like they're in good shape to go into Duquesne Conference play, potentially with a 2-0 record, as long as they can stay on task. And that's key in that league, as you well know, just from watching that over time. Depth in that league is something to behold. It's an 8-team conference where it seems like almost every week there's 2 or 3 games that come down to the absolute wire. And you can almost throw the records out the window most of the time. I mean, obviously there are a couple of programs that kind of consistently are at the top, but it seems like that's just a huge dogfight right in the middle of that conference. To see who gets separated. And there were some impressive showings from some other teams in the Duquesne tonight as well. I thought it was a strong first showing for Wheaton Warrenville South tonight. They were comfortably ahead. The last that I saw, I believe the last score I saw was 35-0 over Glenbard South. So that's a good start for the Tigers. So in general, once again, it looks like that league's going to be really, really deep again.
And of course, with Wheaton North, with that game being tight, if they did pull it out, that's a playoff point that you've got to keep in mind for the guys like Geneva, Batavia, St. Charles North, even the Wheaton South. It's an extra playoff point. That's why these non-conference games matter, because they come back to play in late October. Where did that end up going? I've been looking at 4 or 5 games. By the way, York a winner 28-10 over Glenbrook South. That's now final. And Warren finished up. That's a final. Lincoln Way East, by the way, they still got 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So that may be our last one of the night. But what happened with Wheaton North? Do we get a final on that one yet?
Wheaton North seems to be backing up. I don't know, like they were inside the 10, but now they seem to be like back around the 25-yard line. So I'm not really sure what's going on here. But
all right.
But yeah, so
why don't you
right
keep
now
watching
that's what
it?
it looks like.
Yeah, you keep watching it. Let's check in on some games around the state here. Princeton with a win over Newman Central Catholic. Kevin was there. He's got a recap for us.
Report from Princeton's Bryant Field tonight. The Princeton Tigers opened the season with a 27-14 win over rival Sterling Newman in a Three Rivers crossover game. The Tigers led 20-7 at the halftime on touchdowns by Alex Wynn, Ace Christensen, and Casey Etheridge. Newman got a 1-yard touchdown by Ivy, which was the first score against the Tigers in the last three and a half games. Tiger quarterback Will Law added a 1-yard run in the third quarter, and Juggerman caught a 28-yard pass from Bushman to complete the scoring for a 27-14 Tiger win. Tigers held Newman to negative 39 yards rushing, while Bushman passed for 190. Next week, the Tigers make the trip to Rock Ridge to play the Rockets in a big Three Rivers crossover of the division favorites and division champions. The Comets will be home against Mendota. And your final from Bryant Field was Princeton 27, Newman 14.
All right, so Princeton goes to 1-0. Always nice to see them do well because they tend to get deep into the postseason before they run into somebody from a Catholic League team that around the quarterfinal mark. It's a good football town, and they love their football, and so seeing them off to a good start means that town is in a good mood for sure. Well, what are you watching right now, Souce?
Still was kind of peeking here, and it looks like St. Francis has definitely got their offense clicking, so they've been moving along. And then once again, Wheaton North, I think they're finally on fourth down here, sitting at the 26-yard line. So they have thrown a couple of balls into the end zone. Providence has been able to knock them down. Looks like Maine South did get on the board one more time up there.
Yep.
It's 42-22 now, but there's still 8 minutes left in that one. What I just caught up on, Nazareth has tacked on a field goal. They now lead Kankakee 23-16 in that game. A couple of other finals that I've noticed that have been rolling in. Morris with a 31-12 win over Coal City. And then Oswego picked up a 30-7 win over Neuqua Valley.
Speaking of Oswego, let's hear more about that. Josh was there, and he has a chance to tell us about what he saw between the Panthers and the Wildcats.
Hi, this is Joshua Welge from Oswego High School, where the final score is Oswego beats Neuqua Valley 30-7. Very impressive performance by Oswego. They shut out Neuqua Valley until deep into the third quarter. That was after last year they shut them out for the game 13-0. This year it's 30-7. Oswego forced 3 turnovers in the game. The first one came on special teams, which set up Oswego's first touchdown of the game. Late in the game, Carson Cooney and Iowa Crude, who's all over the place defensively in the second half. He pressured the quarterback to set up a safety by Trent Walworth-Engel for Oswego. Offensively for Oswego, Brett Connolly, senior quarterback, threw for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also ran for a touchdown. One of his touchdowns went to Jeremiah Keene in Northern Iowa recruit. Jeremiah also had an interception for Oswego, and he also had a long catch that set up another score for Oswego. So very impressive performance for Oswego, who's back here next week, and they host Joliet Catholic, so that'll be a very interesting Week 2 game. Again, from Oswego High School, the final is Oswego beats Neuqua Valley 30-7. Thank you.
What do you make of Oswego and the Panthers and where they are with their program right now, Souce?
You know, this was a program that maybe took a little bit of a step back the previous years. You know, heading into this, you were used to Oswego churning out conference championships, being at the top of the league for a while. But it's kind of a credit to that division in the Southwest Prairie. It's so deep and so strong that it became too hard for Oswego to just be on top of that league every single year. So they had maybe taken a little bit of a step back, but it looks like they are definitely in position to restore some of the glory to that program with this particular group. Looks really strong. And I remember thinking when I heard during the offseason that Oswego had scheduled Joliet Catholic in Week 2, I kind of scoffed at that a little bit. I'm like, what are they doing? I mean, why would they do that? Well, maybe they think they have the pieces in place to give Joliet Catholic a little bit of a run. So that was really interesting scheduling on their part, especially considering some of the shifts in that conference, bringing Bolingbrook into their division as well. Their conference is hard enough. They don't need to go out and seek out difficult non-conference games, because it is a rigorous league once they get into league play.
Yeah, if you have a good offense in that league, good luck, because you're facing some very good defenses. Case in point, Plainfield South and Yorkville, they were 3-0 in the second half of that one. Don't have a final on that in front of me, but yeah, there are a lot of really physical football teams in that league, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch, to see where those teams end up going come November, because of the fact that they're in that 6A, 7A, 8A mix, where maybe even a team could slide back to 6, depending. Again, there's a lot that has to happen for that, but for the most part, it's all about the draw. And if you can play good defense like we've seen those teams do, they tend to advance a little bit here in the postseason. So curious to see how that goes.
And that it appears that Providence has walked off Wheaton North. They have scored a touchdown and defeated Providence.
Okay, so we looks like so Wheaton North has won. Read that again, just to make sure that I understand.
Yeah, Wheaton North has scored apparently on, it looks like what was the last play of the game, and they are actively celebrating. So it appears that
so there you go. Wheaton North, a winner in that one. That's going to be a key playoff point, as we talked about in these last few minutes. About 10-12 now. We've been on the air for 45 minutes. We watched St. Francis go into in trouble to in control. We've recapped a couple of games. Let's check in with Streeter with their 20-12 win over at Eisenhower in Decatur. JD Penalty was there. He's got a quick recap for us.
JT Penalty here at Decatur Eisenhower. It's been wet all night, especially here in the second quarter and the fourth quarter. But the Streeter Bulldogs hold on for a 20-12 win over Decatur Eisenhower. First time the two teams have played each other. Jordan Lukes, doubtless the star of the game for the Bulldogs. He, on Streeter's first offensive play from scrimmage under new coach Matt Clough, had a 69-yard touchdown run. He went on to make two key contain end tackles on Decatur Eisenhower's final drive there. Almost said Dwight Eisenhower. Decatur Eisenhower's final drive in the final seconds. Streeter held, and the Bulldogs get the victory to move to 1-0 before arch rival Ottawa comes to town next Friday.
And that's always an entertaining matchup. Ottawa now 0-1, Streeter at 1-0, and so that should be entertaining next week.
Absolutely. One of those long-standing rivalries that if you're not from that area, you don't understand how much it means to those people. But it certainly does. Just from a distance, you can sense that that's one of those things that, you might not have the best overall regular season record, but when it comes down to that game, that's the one that those people that are involved talk about years after the fact.
I was watching Lincoln Way East. They're up by 20 with 5 minutes to go, but had Maine South gotten a stop, they would have gotten the ball back, and with that offense, not quite done, but they just picked up a big chunk play to move the chains. They're now under 5 minutes clock rolling, a 42-22 lead in that one. Let's check in with Huntley and Crystal Lake Central. Tim was at that one. He's got a quick recap. Huntley, a 35-7 winner over the Tigers.
Hey everyone, we've got a final here at Crystal Lake Central High School. Huntley 35, Crystal Lake Central 7. Quarterback Braylon Bauer, forgive me, throws for 205 yards and 3 touchdowns. Crystal Lake Central, a bright spot, Aiden Niederkamp, he comes in and completes 7 of 9 passes on Crystal Lake Central's final drive for 80 yards. He's a lefty to break up the Huntley potential shutout. Again, Huntley 35, Crystal Lake Central 7 in the season opener. They force 2 interceptions. They execute a fake punt that leads to a touchdown. So a big opening week 1 win for Huntley here in Crystal Lake.
Can Huntley give Cary Grove a run for its money? Cary Grove and Prairie Ridge a run for its money this year for the league title?
It's one of those things where I feel like until you get a couple weeks under your belt, you're not really sure where those programs are exactly at. But I feel like that conference, even though Jacobs has been kind of in the mix the last few years, I still feel like the road to the conference championship ultimately goes through that triangle of schools. in order for you to win that league, you aim to sweep those 2 games, but you got to at least get a split, because that's going to be the situation that it comes down to. So Huntley, might be a step below, but it's a very small step, to be completely honest with you, in my opinion right now.
We talked about it just a little bit ago about the Sycamore and DeKalb rivalry. Week 1 rivalry is one heck of a way to start the season, but it was a thriller at NIU's Husky Stadium. Eddie was there. A quick recap as Sycamore holds on to defeat DeKalb in the rivalry matchup.
So quick report from Husky Stadium in a wild game. 35-28, Sycamore ends up winning. Burkhalter steals the game late with an interception. The big play in the game, though, Caden O'Donnell had a huge interception earlier in the fourth quarter, led to a Sycamore touchdown that ended up giving them a momentum in the ball and taking away from DeKalb at that point. Just absolute huge play in sealing the win, especially because it came after a strange play in which on a punt, DeKalb forced the punt. Ball bounced off a Sycamore player's helmet. That led to DeKalb getting the ball back. They have a 7-point lead. There's about 5.5 minutes left, and boom, interception, Caden O'Donnell, huge play. Sycamore scores 2 touchdowns in the last 5.5 minutes. Can't overlook the fact that DeKalb did have a chance. They got it down to the 20 after a 50-yard pass to Devon Grant, over 400 yards passing for Cole Latimer. So Devon Grant gets a huge catch down to the 20, and looks like DeKalb was going to have a chance to tie it. Burkhalter got the interception late in the end zone in just an insane rivalry challenge game here. Sorry, heads on swivel. There you go, 35-28. FridayNightDrive.com for all the details.
And so what we want to explain for those of you at home, these reporters that you're hearing with great recaps. We love their work. We love how hard they work to get these. I mean, they're keeping stats. They're watching on the sideline. They're also looking around, because guess what they're trying to do? Get interviews for the story that you're going to read tomorrow morning, or potentially for Soucie. He's going to be at about 2:00 in the morning tonight when he reads all those stories. But so that's why everybody's kind of looking around and doing a little bit of this. So you get a little bit of inside baseball with how this is done. So that's just kind of a little a heads up on that. There, heads on a swivel. You've been in that mode, right? After a game, you're looking to get that story done.
Absolutely. A couple of interesting updates that I've come across. Nazareth has now stretched the lead to 29-16 over Kankakee right now. That's got about 8 minutes left in that game. IC Catholic, who had an interesting scheduling quirk that came into this week. They just found this game about a week ago when their original week one dropped out on them. They traveled down to St. Louis to play St. Mary's High School, which is a pretty strong program in St. Louis. They tied the game in the fourth quarter, missed a 2-point conversion that would have given them a 22-20 lead. So the game went into overtime. Strangely, I'm not sure why they went for 2, because in the overtime period, St. Mary's missed their conversion, and then IC Catholic was able to go for 1, won the game 27-26. So a thriller down in St. Louis for IC Catholic gets them to 1-0 on the season. So interesting stretch of events there with the conversion delays.
Let me add one more to you. Muhammad Seymour with a 41-27 lead on Morton. Soucie, that's in the second quarter because of the rain delay. It's 41-27. They have not gotten to halftime yet, and it's 10-19. So it's going to be a long night. Central Illinois had a long swath of storms that was kind of drifting. This is my weatherman move here, the green screen. It's sliding south and all that. So we're watching that on the old Twitter sphere and X, and to see how that's going. St. Francis right now, 27-21 on Kenwood. Kenwood just scored. They're about to kick off with about 4.5 minutes left to go in that one. Lincoln Way East put another one on. All the reserves are in here. It's under 3 minutes. It's 49-22. Couple finals that I found: Minooka with a 49-14 win over Rock Island, and Dixon, the Dukes, with a 56-14 win over Stillman Valley. What impresses you with Morris? I mean, Coal City, it's a little rivalry matchup, but I'm curious to see what Morris has in store for 2024.
You know, it's a very interesting team. A lot of people look at that team and say, "Oh, they lost AJ Zweers, they lost Carter Button, they lost their strong running back." But, you know, in talking to Coach Alan Thorson, he really likes the core that he still has coming back and feels like they can be a dangerous team. And obviously with Morris, when you look down the way that things have broke down in the postseason for them, they are a classic 4A, 5A bubble team. And while I think they could be a dangerous team still in 5A, if that team slides into a 4A playoff bracket, look out. I think it is a really, really dangerous team. Last year, obviously, they felt like they had some things going, and they ran into a buzzsaw against Joliet Catholic, a long history of postseason games between Joliet Catholic and Morris. So that's just one of those situations that played out. But like I was saying before, if this Morris team finds its way into the 4A bracket, it would be definitely on the short list of teams that I think could win a 4A state championship.
I love those bubble teams because it just this is what makes it fun about not only just the records, but the slide scale of where you go in the classes. That's what makes the whole postseason thing fun. And boy, when we get to weeks 6, 7, and 8, we're going to be talking a lot about it heading into selection Saturday weekend. I want to spend some time before we get to a timeout here in a couple of minutes talking about LaSalle Peru and their 18-16 win over United Township. LP and the Cavs last year, 4-5, missing the postseason. Canelan slammed the door on them in a tough way, but they were 4-3 going into that final 2 weeks. But when you have Sycamore and Canelan on that schedule, that is a tough week 8, week 9 combo. So LaSalle Peru gets to 1-0, getting an 18-16 win, holding on and taking out United Township. Kevin has a recap. Kevin Shalom was there. He's got more.
This is Kevin Klum at Howard Fellow Stadium, where LP just hung on for an 18-16 victory over United Township. It was a game full of big plays and big momentum shifts, and LP got the last one when Adrian Ozola caught a 58-yard touchdown from Marianne Persich. Then the Panthers missed a field goal with less than 2 minutes left. LP got the first down, ran out the clock, and now they're moving on to 1-0, going to Metamora next week.
Of course, LP is one of the most unique and iconic stadiums in the entire state of Illinois. Talk about a perfect week 1 venue for him. Have you been there? You seen a game there, or has it been a while for you?
It has been a while, but yes, I have seen a game there. And going back to like what we were talking about before, like it seems so early to be talking about this, but like you mentioned, LaSalle Peru 4-5 last year. This is the kind of win that when we're looking back at it, 6 weeks from now, the difference between being, say, 3-3 in the middle of the season or 2-4 is immense. So these are the kinds of games for a program that has kind of floated around that 500 mark for multiple years. You don't want to try to script their season before we even really get going, but these kinds of wins are absolutely pivotal for them, for a program like LaSalle Peru to get. They've got to get wins in games like this to get themselves in a position to where they're not constantly, under the screws trying to get themselves to that 5th victory. You get a little bit ahead of steam before they get into conference play, then maybe you have a little bit of breathing room instead of constantly feeling like you have that pressure to stay on task.
Kevin had a chance to talk with Adrian Erzola. He mentioned him in his little conversation with us. Let's hear more of what he had to say. Adrian Erzola, after the
feels amazing to get the first win. We fought hard. And long touchdown, felt really great, just making up for my mistake.
So, you got to feel good for a kid like that, especially week 1, those mistakes, they come hot and heavy. Everyone's making a little mistake or alignment mistake or maybe even a penalty, a false start, something like that. When you can make up for that, boy, it just instills confidence. And then you get into that rhythm of playing football week 2, 3, 4, 5, and it flies by right after that.
Yep, absolutely. It's like I was thinking about this coming back from the Mount Carmel game last night. I'm like going, granted, you have playoffs, but after that one game, you're 10% done with your season, like your regular season, basically what it comes down to. So it just goes so fast. But like I said, those one little things you can get you, just one little thing in a positive direction will get you in the right place. So Kankakee's still swinging, by the way, in that Nazareth game. Southfield quarterback Philip Turner just broke off a long touchdown run. They've closed to within 29-23. That game's early in the 4th quarter, 10:59 to play.
Sterling last year, also one of those 4-5 teams that we mentioned, but they got in. And so if you can make sure you get to 5 wins, you're going to feel pretty good for a team like Sterling. But not tonight, not a good start. Metamora with a win over Sterling. Drake was there. He's got a recap for us real quick.
Quick recap of Sterling's 28-9 home loss to Metamora to open the season. Metamora's Stephen Petrie has 3 touchdown passes. Redbirds shut out Sterling in the second half. A few big moments don't go Sterling's way. A couple long plays given up. They got down to the 1 yard line, had to settle for a field goal, had another long touchdown called back for a penalty, had some issues with the punt team, and Metamora didn't make a lot of mistakes, played good defense. Looks like they're going to be a pretty strong team this year.
Sterling's got kind of a funky schedule. They got 3 home games in a row to start things off. Now's Notre Dame coming there next, United Township, and then they go up to Beloit to play a Turner before they really dive into that Western Big Six. So Sterling's one of those teams, especially where they sit in that 5A kind of, no man's land of teams where, as last year, they got to 4 and 5, and then you get the right matchup, you're going to keep playing a while.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of one of the quirks of the system last year was like, when Sterling was in that week 9 kind of mishmash trying to figure out whether or not they would get in as a 4-win team. They ended up getting into the field that way. And they were one of many of those 6 teams that were extremely productive once they got into the playoffs because, as you well know, sometimes if you get the right draw, just because that team is 9-0 or 8-1 that's above you, if you're a 4 and 5 team that's played a really strong schedule, you might be better prepared for that playoff game than an 8-1 team that maybe has not played good competition all year long.
All right, so it's closing in on 10:30. We're going to take our final break of the night, and then we're going to start over and kind of get through the top 25 and the most notable matchups we've been watching. Lincoln Way East just went final. That is a big win for Lincoln Way East against Maine South. We'll have more on that. And basically the whole through top 25 and get as many scores as we can here as we got about a half an hour to go here. Friday Night Drive here. Stay with us.
Hey, football fans, listen up. I'm Top there, and I drive a Hawk. I got it from my friends at Hawk Volkswagen. So drive what I drive. Drive a Hawk. Hawk Volkswagen on Jefferson Street in Joliet or online at hawkvw.com.
Do you ever wonder where the profits go when you shop at a big box store? Hi, this is Patty from Oliver's Corner Market. When you shop at Oliver's, you can rest assured that the profits stay local, supporting other local businesses and charities. Find us at the corner of Britton and Bradshaw in Dixon.
I like Reich.
I like Reich.
Since 2016, it's been my privilege to represent the people of the 63rd District. I want to continue representing you as an independent voice in Springfield.
I like Reich. We like Reich.
We're here to help you with your problems that result from an automobile accident or an injury on the job or the loss of a loved one. There's no reason you should go through this alone and guess that you're doing things right.
We deal with tragedies that affect families and individuals every day.
Come here and protect your interests. We've been doing this collectively for over 100 years. Let's put that experience to work for you.
All right, welcome back. Friday Night Drive, week number 1. Matt Rodewald, Steve Soucie with you. Let's get through the top 25. And Soucie, you have more scores in front of you, I think, than I do. So I'm gonna let you handle top 25 stuff if that's okay with you. I want to make sure that we dig in on some of the deep dive stuff. I'm looking at Marengo. I got your score coming. I'm looking at North Boone, things like that. So let's do that. Why don't we go through the top 25? And then we'll spend some time kind of setting you up for Loyola East St. Louis and Batavia Glenbard West. How about that double dip for you tomorrow? So run down what we got here if we can.
Okay, well,
start with Lincoln Way East and Maine South. That just went final.
Okay, that ended up being a 49-22 final in terms of what was going on there. Let me look over. Remember, let's get that. Yep.
You see the games on your screen while you're looking. I'll kind of run through what I can see for you. Fieldcrest losing to Meridian tonight, 34-28. Looking for some ranked teams. We'll get to those as well. Plano a winner. Big second half for them. 17-14 win. We just talked about LP getting a win over United Township. Lincoln Way East and then Metamora a winner as well. How about that? Lyons Township beating Prospect tonight. A big first quarter you see there, and then they were able to cruise 38-21. LT is one of those teams that hasn't been talked about with, York and Glenbard West and even Hinsdale Central getting a little bit of love, but LT could be pretty good this year.
Yeah, that's one of those teams that when you look at the conference that they're in, you're like, boy, that is just a heck of a gauntlet that, that all those teams are going to have to run through. I could see a scenario, honestly, with all the teams that are up near the top of that league where, you got 2 teams with 1 loss in league play. You got 2 more with 2 losses, and every single week you look at the schedule and there are 2 or 3 matchups on there. Like, boy, that's a toss-up. I mean, it really does feel like that division. You could have a bad quarter, and that's going to cost you against pretty much anybody that you play inside of that division. So just so much depth in that league this year that Lions definitely is a team that, like, I was keeping my eye on, but you look at it and you're like, well, someone's got to finish 4th in that division. Like, that's the reality of the situation. You got Downers Grove North, and you got Glenbard West, and you've got, it's just like the lineup of teams in that league, so difficult. So, but Lions is a capable team. It would not surprise me to see them go on a nice little run themselves. Obviously, a good solid win against a good prospect team tonight. This was a game that I had 5 to 10 games that were on my list of, like, I really want to know what happens in this game, because I think they're both good football teams. If one team kind of demonstrates that it's, superior, that's a really good sign for them moving forward. And I think it's a really big statement win for Lions tonight.
I'm watching Kenwood and St. Francis. Kenwood with the ball, final 3.5 seconds left of that one. It looks like a 50-yard, stretch to the end zone. So it's going to have to be pretty spectacular. As you can tell that St. Francis has like good 4 defenders, 50 yards off the ball,
I'm looking at it
the
too.
10-yard line. Yeah, so you're watching that. I'll let you watch that as I look at the scores on the screen and just point out some things that I'm looking at. Genoa Kingston with a 41-22 win over Leo. Orion with a nice win to start things off over Hall. Streeter, as we mentioned, beating Eisenhower on the road downstate. And again, a lot of weather issues downstate for a lot of those teams. Fulton, a 28-0 shutout win over Forreston. That's a bit of a surprise in terms of
that one
ability to get on the board.
Definitely raised my eyebrow in terms of 1A football. I liked what Fulton had coming back. I heard a lot of positive things, but Forreston's a really good program. They're really the only team that has really pushed Lena Winslow over the last couple of years.
Yes, they are.
So, I mean, that is a nice win for Fulton, especially with the dominating performance that they obviously put forth on the defensive side of the ball.
Keep an eye on that last play for Kenwood as I go through the top 10. It was Lincoln Way East with a 49-22 win over Maine South. It was a 27-point rout. They led early and pretty much wire to wire. Again, Mount Carmel last night losing their opening matchup at home to the Hunt School out of New Jersey. Nazareth, I believe they were winning big, did they hold on here? That one I couldn't keep track of. So
last I saw it was 29-23 in favor of Nazareth.
All right, so we'll find out and make sure we get a final score in that one. Brother Rice with a big dominant performance over Phillips, a win there. A shutout win for Downers Grove North as they went down to O'Fallon. 5-hour bus drive, got the shutout win. They're on their way back right now, probably watching us on the stream. Batavia at Glenbard West tomorrow. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Cary Grove, 10th-ranked Trojans, a little sluggish out of the gate. This is kind of how they are in week 1. That's okay. 27-3 win for them over the Central Rockets. And the Warren Blue Devils, a big 55-point performance, a 55-26 win over a Hersey team I thought was going to be dynamite on offense, but maybe the question is how good is Warren more than anything else? And then as I get deeper in the top 15 of the top 25, so to speak, Joliet Catholic, a winner over Iowa City. We're watching that Kenwood St. Francis. Is it final yet? I moved off screen there for that, and I believe it is final. So they held on. So St. Francis, a winner over Kenwood, and that one to start things off the season for the Spartans. They are a 1-0 team. Other finals that we have mentioned, Prairie Ridge, a 17-0 win over Jacobs. But Fenton getting a win to get on the board. The Fenton Bison, a 10-game losing streak coming in there, a winner over Elgin. And then let's see as we go down these finals. I believe Evanston finished off Highland Park. Didn't get the final in that one. Plano, as we mentioned, over Ottawa, 17-14. Geneva in a rout over Larkin. Didn't expect 63-0, but 63-0 tells you that they were ready to go to start. Princeton, a winner tonight, 27-14. Morris over Coal City, 31-12. Dixon over Stillman Valley, that was a 56-14 final, and Minooka, a 49-14 win over Rock Island. Was that game for Minooka at home or on the road? I believe they were at the bowl last year.
It was their turn to go back to Rock Island.
They had to go back this year. Okay.
They were at Minooka last year, so it was their turn to make the road trip. So, by the way, Kankakee has now taken a 30-29 lead over Nazareth with a pick 6. There's about 9 minutes left to play in that game. Keandre White with a 45-yard interception return for a score.
Let's go up north because the scores on your screen, there's a couple of things that jump out to me. Lockport, a 28-21 winner over Plainfield North. A good start for the Porters in that one. We mentioned Prairie Ridge. How about Hampshire getting on the board? They were 0-9, I believe, last year. Either way, those two teams battling in overtime. It was Hampshire, a 17-16 win on the road in McHenry to start things off for the Whippers. Dundee Crown was in charge of this one. Crystal Lake South tried to rally. They could not. So the Chargers now at 1-0. They'll face the Central Rockets next week. A chance for the Chargers to get to 2-0. The last time the Dundee Crown was at 2-0 was I don't know when. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So I have to look that up for sure. And Rochelle tonight, a winner over Woodstock, 39-20. And that's one of those teams. They were a hot start as you see in the box score. How good can the Hubs be, and can they get the favorable matchup in 5A to bother some teams and get deep in the postseason?
Well, Rochelle is another one of those teams that rides that 4A, 5A bubble. They have gotten into the 4A draw a few times too. And the buzz that I've heard about Rochelle has been nothing but positive in the offseason. So there's a lot of people that think that, if they can get themselves into a good situation in terms of getting the wins that they need, because like some, they have to play, a lot of 5s and 6A teams that are pretty solid in their schedule. It's just the way that it works. So definitely a situation where if Rochelle can get into playoffs, and just like we were talking about Morris before, they're a super dangerous 4A team and a very competitive 5A team.
Looking through the comments, again, I've got like 5 screens going. So if I don't get to your comments or if I miss something, I do sincerely apologize. And we're trying to do this while we watch games as well. Byron, 56-7 over Rock Falls. That's a final. We're looking for an IC Catholic. Did we get an IC Catholic update on that one? I'm not sure if we had that yet.
That was
talked
final.
about them. I know that.
That was final. 27-26 in overtime.
27-26 in overtime. Marengo, a winner over Evergreen Park tonight, 24-10. North Boone over Oregon. The Hawks go down. That one is an 18-13 final. And so what else do we have here as we're looking up and down here? What do you just overall, not really a ton of like blockbuster surprises, but fascinating matchups and fascinating results, I would say.
Yeah, I think, this is always a fascinating week because like you feel like you've learned and read and looked at everything. And it's always fun to see who is actually delivering on the potential that you see for that. And tonight, there weren't, like you said, there were not a lot of games where the result just kind of jumped off the page at me and said, what's going on here? But there were a lot of games that came right down to the wire. We were talking about a few of them earlier. The Providence-Wheaton North game was one that I thought on paper could potentially be a toss-up. That's almost exactly what it turned out to be, taking the last play of the game for Wheaton North to pull out that 23-22 win. But, there were some other ones out there that I was just kind of keeping an eye on. Lockport's win over Plainfield North kind of stands out to me. That's a Lockport team that has very limited returning varsity experience. So that's a pretty important win for Lockport, especially looking forward to the schedule that they have. Plainfield North has a pretty experienced defense, some questions on offense that they needed to answer, but Lockport jumped out to a 14-0 lead in that game and just kind of hung on for dear life and finished it off for a 28-21 win. So that's a nice win for Lockport, especially considering the schedule that they have moving forward. A couple other teams that I kind of noticed out there tonight. I mentioned Wheaton Warrenville South a little bit earlier. Yeah, that's a strong win for them. A team that I was pretty curious. I haven't seen a final on this, but I saw that Homewood Flossmoor had built up a pretty substantial lead over Bolingbrook.
I was looking for that, and I couldn't find it.
The last I saw, it was 27-6 in favor of Homewood Flossmoor. That's a good step for Homewood Flossmoor. They made the playoffs, lost in the first round, but they have a lot of talent on that team, so it was interesting to see how that game might come out. Bolingbrook looking to bounce back from a 3-6 year and moving into a new conference. But that was a game that I was pretty interested in looking at. I don't know if it went final. The last score that I saw in the Lena Winslow Morrison game, Morrison coming into that conference from the Three Rivers this year. I wanted to see how they'd hold up against the big dogs there. Lena Winslow was comfortably ahead the last I saw, but Morrison definitely hanging in there as best they could. So those were some of the games that I was kind of looking at to try to get a gauge for kind of where these teams were at, and definitely got an answer. Have you seen a St. Charles North Palatine score anywhere?
I have not. That's on my list too of things to look for. And while we're doing that, let me ask you a question, just to because we haven't had a chance since we got going here. Once the games kind of came in, to talk about some of the issues. Kishwaukee Conference and Grant had a great question in the chat. Make sure if you have questions, throw it in the YouTube chat with us. Just the realignment of the Kishwaukee Conference. You got to, they go back to their old setup, so to speak. Sandwich and Plano decided, well, we're going to go over there because that's kind of what we like better for all their sports instead of football. So how do you like the new setup for them?
I think this was one of those situations where it felt like when they kind of linked up with the Interstate 8 conference, it was one of those things where it fit, but it didn't quite fit, if you understand what I'm saying. It was it worked, but it wasn't completely ideal. There were some schools that were, one, having to make some pretty substantial road trips. Two, there were some disparities in enrollment that were kind of difficult to ferret out. So I think this helps some of the smaller teams in the Kishwaukee. They're playing a schedule that doesn't have so many teams where there's a substantial difference in enrollment on their schedule. So I think in the long run, I think it's probably the best possible situation for the teams in Kishwaukee. You might make an argument that the Interstate 8 was hurt significantly more by this because of the scheduling problems that they've had to deal with because of those vacancies that this created on their schedule. There were multiple non-conference games. There were teams that were scrambling. I believe there's two teams. I think it's Ottawa and LaSalle Peru that are actually playing each other twice because they were unable to find a non-conference game on the weeks that were available for them. So,
they are splitting. Actually, they're going to go. Ottawa goes to LaSalle week 3, and then they come back to Ottawa in week 6. So it's not a lot of turnaround for them. But I was just pulling that schedule up just to look from the non-conference standpoint. Canelan's one of those teams. They're always competitive. They're always really good. They may beat themselves up with their schedule, but they started with Washington. They have to go down there. They're down there tonight. They get Wakanda at home. Then they get the Calb, and then they jump into conference play, and they wrap up the week 9 at Althoff down in Belleville. So they're going to have basically a playoff schedule the entire season. It'll be curious to see if they're a team that's in that 6-3 stretch, or maybe even if things go well, they're up at the 7-2 mark because they're going to be tested, and there is not going to be a trip that bothers them. And they got a lot of talent coming back for this year for the Canelan Knights.
Here's a score that I just dug out that I found interesting just based on the way that the game broke down. St. Rita ends up getting a 27-17 win over Sandburg. At halftime, Sandburg led that game 3-0. So it appears that St. Rita got the train back on the tracks there, but for a while there, they were really scuffling. So St. Rita picking up that first win of the season. So
figured it out, huh?
Yeah, it appears that they did. But for early on, it looked like they were having some scuffles against the Sandburg Eagles. So ends up getting a 27-17 win in that one. So that was a good solid win. I think Sandburg is kind of flying under the radar a little bit. I think that's a pretty good football team. So good stuff there.
It's taken them a couple of years to kind of transition from Phillips to Sandburg to get that thing going there, but you can start to see that it is. And I kind of wonder if it's just a matter of time with them to kind of become the monster in the southwest suburbs that we kind of would expect them to be, just based on the resources that they have.
Most recent Nazareth Kankakee update: Nazareth missed a 35-yard field goal. Kankakee still holding a 30-29 lead with 7 minutes to play in that game.
Anawan Weathersfield, a 42-0 win over South Fulton. Just getting that score coming across. I was trying to figure out a Barrington South Elgin score because you and I talked earlier in the week about the fact that South Elgin is going to go play some people this year. How about that? They get Barrington week 1, Batavia week 2. What do you make of the Storm getting out and about this year?
Yeah, I think that was pretty important for these guys, and in a situation where they've dominated the Upstate 8 for years and would very infrequently have a competitive game. So for them to step out and play the non-conference schedule that they have signed up for is a really good thing for them, I think, moving towards the postseason, because they have been able to get a postseason win or two, but for several years they would go 9-0 in the regular season and then go into the playoffs and get beat like in the first round, and in some cases not be really competitive. So playing these non-conference games will set them up much better as long as they can continue to do what they have been doing in the Upstate 8 over the past few years. So yeah, opening with Barrington, follow that up with a road trip to Batavia. That's a way to get yourself ready for your conference season.
Yeah, it'll be Batavia's home opener, so that place, that building will be juiced for sure. Trying to see if we could get some more finals here again, and we appreciate your questions. I know I'm starting to get. Hey, look, this is my first time doing this format with you guys, and it's been wonderful to be a part of this. So I'm kind of getting used to this. We're all kind of getting used to the rhythm of it. We want your comments and questions. So if we don't get to it, it's okay. We will at some point, either this week, next. You keep with us, and then we'll make sure that we get you guys the scores that you want. Folks that are asking about, we'll take a Richmond Burton score. What do you think of Richmond Burton at this year? What is their consistency has just been so good for so long now. When do they take a step back, or maybe they take a step forward and get back down there?
You know, it's one of those things where I think that for where they're at in their league, I think I would expect their league dominance to, they're the man until you beat the man. And now, I don't know if there's anybody in that league that's ready to kind of knock them off that perch. As far as as a statewide perspective, it really kind of depends on what the landscape of the 4A field looks like, because a lot of times, the North bracket in 4A, and there's I could go into a 10-minute dissertation on this, but because there's some changes that are coming to 4 and 5A this year, and I know we got a whole bunch of other topics to get to, so we'll talk about that at a later date. But let's just say it really depends on the landscape of the bracket, and because right now I can't forecast it like I would usually be able to, because there's going to be some changes that come to that. I'll just put it in a nutshell, summing it up as quick as I can. There will be less public league teams in the 4A draw this year than there have been in the past.
Yes. Yeah. And you and I know what we're talking about. We will make sure we get some time in depth. And I'm sure we're going to start one of our shows with because we'll have some time to do that. So hang with us on that these next few weeks here. We talked a couple of minutes ago, maybe a good half an hour ago, about playoff points, why these non-conference games matter. I'll give you one right here. Lake Forest with a 35-12 win over Lakes. That matters to Warren. That matters to Lake Zurich. That matters to whom else? Stevenson. That matters to Libertyville if it gets down to it. Why do these things matter so much when we talk about these little points like on a night like this?
Well, I think when it comes right down to it, you not only are we talking about qualifications, and it might not even matter for 4 and 5, but you start to get into these situations with some of these conferences, like where maybe your non-conference schedules aren't as strong. That affects your seed. You could end if you end up playing, going 7-2 during the regular season, but haven't played a very strong non-conference schedule, and you're just not going to rack up those points, because if you play in an 8-team conference and you win, the maximum number of points that you're going to get in a week is 5. All right, but that hinges on the fact that both of your non-conference opponents win. So if they're not winning, the maximum amount of points you're going to get is 3. And if you're getting 3 points a week, if you're winning your game, that ain't going to get it done. So that's why it matters how your non-conference opponents are doing, ultimately over the course of the season.
How many closed conferences do we have left now that the Upstate 8 open the door a little bit?
I think it's 8.
It's about 8 or 9. That's where my head was at.
Most of them are now in Central and Southern Illinois. We have very few. The Northern Illinois 10 is one of the very few, but a lot of them are 3A, 4A, 2A, 3A, 4A conferences in Central and Southern Illinois now. There are very few. I mean, we're down on
maybe.
that.
Yeah, maybe the biggest enrollment that still does it is the Fox Valley Conference, because of Huntley. It's just the 8A teams. So we have some scores that came in. St. Charles North, a winner over Palatine, 28-27. They converted a 2-point conversion late. I'm curious to see what that one looked like. That's on the road. That is a big win. There's your playoff point. Geneva and Batavia are thrilled by that win tonight.
Oh, yeah.
They'll take that. Wheaton North also getting a last-second win. Those two games itself, let's remember that in late October, on those two games, turning on one play changes the whole seeding and bracket setup for a lot of different teams when we get down to week 9. Also, Barrington, no problem over South Elgin, 64-31 in that one. Now, that's Barrington's 64 points on grass at South Elgin. So that offense, as I got to see in person when they had that shootout with Maine South, boy, they are humming, and they got a lot of talent back. So I think Barrington, they're in a position where if they don't break through, they're going to feel some pressure about where it goes from them in years to come for sure.
Have you happened to see a Fremd Lake Zurich score floating around by chance?
I was looking for that. I had not found it. You know,
the last I saw, Fremd was winning 24-0. So I was wondering if that was carried out to fruition.
Do some research. I got a 31-0 final from Fremd over Lake Zurich tonight.
Yeah.
So a shutout win for the Fremd Vikings.
Remember when we were talking about games that surprised me tonight, and there weren't that many? Well, that's one that surprises me.
That's one of them. Schaumburg, it's 12-7 winner over Antioch. St. Lawrence cruised. Yeah. And so I'm not sure if that was up at Antioch or if that was in Schaumburg. So just I dig through here. East Aurora made the playoffs last year. Not a good start. 34-6. They lose to Maine East tonight. So Maine East gets on the winning column. How about this score? Lincoln Way Central 56, St. Charles East 40. A lot of points in that one as those two went back and forth all night. Lake Park with a 41-7 win over Conant. And so you add playoff points to the Duquesne for that matchup as we continue to roll down here. West Aurora, no problem with Proviso East, 53-0 the final there. Wakanda and Hinsdale South, it was the Bulldogs, a 44-34 winner in that one. So Wakanda gets to win, and they'll be a 1-0 going to Canelan next week. Riverside Brookfield, 34-13 over Niles West. Notre Dame, a 15-13 winner over St. Pat's tonight. And Naperville Central, 24-13 over Hinsdale Central. Mundelein, a winner over Grant, 42-27. I'm getting a look at the St. Charles North 2-point version with 10 seconds left. It was a pass from Plum out to the flat, bobble, catch. It was that close to being picked off. You're going to want to watch that when you get a chance. Also, as we looked at that downstate score that was just bonkers, because there was some rain tonight and a lot of games delayed, they're still in the third quarter. Mahomet Seymour and Morton. It's Mahomet Seymour with a 48-37 lead. And they're just going to keep playing until midnight. We got 7 minutes left. I want to get your thoughts on the doubleheader tomorrow before we sign off here. Batavia Glenbard West to start things off. Should be a beautiful Saturday on Dushan Field. And then downstate for East St. Louis and Loyola.
Yeah, it's a remarkable combo. I mean, we were talking about the Batavia Glenbard West game earlier this week, and it's just one of those games that was kind of created out of a necessity for these two programs to find willing opponents. And it's a really fun one. I think, if I remember correctly, a few years ago, this was one of the games that was put on the schedule pre-COVID. And I remember being really upset that I wasn't going to be able to see it because it got wiped out. I'm like, boy, I hope we figure out a way to get that back on the schedule at some point in time in the future. Because at the time, it was a 1-year deal. So I was like, it's not going to come back. I'm not going to get it. And so then finally, several years later, we do have it back on the schedule. So I'm glad for that. Credit to Glenbard West. We were talking about their schedule before in conference play. They start with Batavia. Week 2,
they didn't have to do this.
Week 2, they got this little program I think you may have heard of called Loyola. I mean, so it's like their schedule is bananas. I mean, that's really what it is, right when it comes down to it. I mean, potentially, I'm not kidding. I don't know if this has ever been done. I mean, they could end up well past the 60-point barrier in playoff points if it plays out the way that it could be. I mean,
they might be the most terrifying 4 and 5 team if it comes down to it.
It's incredible. I mean, it's like that's just astonishing what could potentially come out of that schedule. But and then you go down in the evening and we get another opportunity to see a pretty marquee matchup between Loyola and East St. Louis. A little adaptation from last year's version where we had Mount Carmel down there against East St. Louis. Really enjoyed that experience last year. Looking forward to it again. some great talent on both sides of the football. Really interested to see Loyola in action. It's just it's machine-like. East St. Louis lost some key cogs from that team last year, but that's one team that they're always going to show up with some dudes. I know they have some dudes in the linebacking core. They've got some guys in the secondary like they always do. Offensively, they might have a few more questions, but the Flyers, if there's anything that they know how to do, they'll figure that out. So should be a really good matchup down there. It makes for a great capper to a very, very interesting week one.
I hope they keep doing that downstate matchup, that Central Illinois matchup of Metro East, East St. Louis, and whoever you want, Chicago, come on down, because I think it's great for football in the state of Illinois. I think we need to wrap up. Last couple of scores that came at Canelan, a winner at Washington tonight. Wheaton Academy goes down to Second Baptist of Texas. Hoffman Estates and Grays Lake North, both winners tonight. So that's it. That's what we've got for you. I want to show you some highlights as we wrap things up here for Neil and for John Sally and for everybody on our team, entire team, all the reporters who chimed in. Thank you so much. It's been a good week one. Your final thoughts on a week one that you saw?
Hey, it was what we expected it to be. We learned a lot about a lot of football teams tonight. Obviously, you're going to scour all these other things and figure these things out as we go along, but a lot of great football. I knew this was going to be an exciting year. We've got a lot of exceptional talent spread all over the state this year. It's going to be fun to sort this all out.
Bradley Bourbonnais, also a winner tonight. Got to squeeze that in. All right, that's it. We will see you next week. Friday Night Drive. Make sure you get your Friday Night Drive subscription so you can read all the recaps of the games we just had enough time to mention throughout the course of the night. For Steve Soucie, I'm Matt Rodewald. See you next week, guys.
Number pass is up to the end zone, and that's the ball game. Your final score.
Go, Gael. Bennett Conti with the return. Touchdown, Geneva.
All righty, guys. I'm back for what we have affectionately called Friday Night Drive After Dark. We're going to start going through the results of this week. I wasn't able to record and document many of the scores that we have. So, like we've done in the past, I'll just start rifling through conference by conference here. And if you've got one of these scores that I'm missing, please feel free to pop in the comments and let me know what's going on. Because, like I said, we are going to go conference by conference, and I'm missing a whole bunch of scores. So we're going to be here a while tonight. Hope you don't mind. I know most of you don't. Obviously, very interesting week one. I think there was a lot of stuff that we learned this week about a lot of teams. So that was great. Interesting, as I expected it to be. So I'm going to start at the top, alphabetically conference-wise. Looking for several scores in the Apollo. Right now, looking for Robinson and Effingham, Mattoon and Decatur MacArthur. I know that Matt had said during the broadcast that Morton and Muhammad Seymour is going to be a late finish tonight. So I'm not expecting to find that one real soon, but if anybody comes across it, I would appreciate it. As far as the Big Northern goes, I know I saw this somewhere. I'm trying to find it right now. Genoa Kingston and Chicago Leo played tonight. I know that Genoa won. I have not seen a final. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to start with those two conferences. I'm going to look in a couple places to see where I can find them. Just going to kind of comment on interesting scores as I see them coming across here. Basically, what we're looking at here is there were a lot of games canceled tonight, too. Keep in mind, in Central and Southern Illinois. So some of these exercises might be in futility, trying to find these scores tonight because we just don't have. I know there were. I found at least 8 to 10 games that were canceled, or postponed heading into the next one. So just trying to sort out some of my screens right now. So I apologize for the choppiness. Eventually, we're going to get a little bit more streamlined in this process, but it's week one. It's a little bit crazy. That's just the way that it goes. So just found the Mattoon score that I was looking for. So Decatur MacArthur, a 47-6 win over Mattoon. That's a nice win for them right out of the box. So just it takes a little bit longer this first week because we've got so many non-conference games. And I have in the file that I use, it is grouped by conference, which makes it really easy when we're in conference play to put these wins and losses. But when you have to input them the other way, it is not quite so easy. So, like I said, some interesting scores tonight. A lot of the top 25 in the Friday Night Drive rankings did what they were supposed to, but there were a couple of upsets out there. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I want to go look and see if the Kankakee Nazareth game has gone final yet. As we were closing up, I just kind of let that one get away from me. So I'm going to check on that one because I'm interested. As of the last I knew, Kankakee had a 1-point lead in that game. That is turned into a nice, fierce rap. Oh, Nazareth got him, 37-30. Scored with 3:46 left in the game, so that's interesting. Nazareth off to a better start than they were last year when they started the season 0-4. Ended up 4-5 in the regular season and made it and won the state championship game. So a better start already for the Roadrunners, but really had to fight ferociously to get that win over Kankakee. So that, even though it's a loss for Kankakee, that's a good sign for the K's, a quarterfinalist last year, losing to East St. Louis in the 6A quarterfinals. For them to hang in there with a team as well regarded as Nazareth, with some different people in key positions, I'll tell you, I saw him in a scrimmage. I really like Kankakee sophomore quarterback Philip Turner. I think he's going to be a pretty explosive athlete for Kankakee this season and moving forward. So just what I witnessed when I was out there seeing them during the week 0 scrimmage period. So a nice player there that they have 2 more years with, or excuse me, 3 more years with. So, but that's definitely a great result right there to start the season. Both teams are going to gain a lot from that game. So, once again, still kind of looking for a few scores in the Apollo Conference. That is where I'm at right now. I did see that Christian Brothers absolutely beat up Sacred Heart Griffin tonight. I know Sacred Heart Griffin is kind of a team in transition, but boy, that Christian Brothers team must be really, really good out of St. Louis to do what they did. That was a 45-0 decision in favor of Christian Brothers tonight. So, I'm just trying to get my bearings here after kind of a crazy night, but definitely an entertaining one. So we'll start figuring these. This will be a little bit more streamlined in future weeks, but trying to find, once again, some of these games that might be tonight might be a little messy trying to find because we have some games tonight that I think were probably moved, but we're also having trouble finding out which games those are. So definitely a challenge tonight. But that's what we're here for. So I'm checking a few other places right now, trying to see if I can find scores. I'm going to move on when... Let's see here. So I found the Effingham score that I was looking for. Effingham, 54-30 over Robinson. Big effort for them. Okay, I'm going to go down here and find my Robinson score. So it looks like I may have gotten my answer on. Might be pushed till tomorrow. So Charleston. Let's see what happened here. Yep, that Charleston game got moved to Saturday. So that closes out that conference. The one score that I'm missing in the Big Northern right now is Winnebago and Rockford Lutheran. So if anybody's got a lead on that, I would appreciate it. I'll start checking my various sources here to see if I can come up with that one. I just found it. Rockford Lutheran, a 49-6 winner in that one. So that closes out that conference. Byron, a big winner tonight, as expected. Wait a minute. Still looking for that Genoa Kingston Leo score. So let me see what happened there. Do not have it here. Here we go. I think I'll find it here. I did. That's a 41-22 win for Genoa Kingston. So we got the Big Northern closed out. Now we're moving to the Big 12. I don't have hardly any scores for that league tonight, so that will be a little bit of a challenge. But okay. So right now I would say I probably got about 20% of tonight's scores in. I was able to get some of the early Friday scores in before we went on air, but it's hard to do that and put scores in at the same time. So, especially the non-conference games, because they're all over the map and they're harder to input. So, I'm going to start here with the Big 12, see what I can find. Normal University wins 64-28 over Manual. And they're Central State 8, so I got to move down there. So, okay. Then Peoria with a 56-21 win over Centennial. Okay. Normal West. I do not have a Normal West Peoria Notre Dame score. Normal West, a 33-27 winner over Peoria Notre Dame. That was a game that I was interested in coming into tonight. Looks like it was a pretty competitive one. All right. So now, about to spill my Sunkist all over myself. All right. Normal Community wins 55-12 over Richwoods. Decatur, St. Teresa, and Urbana. Do not have that one. Okay. So we're going to go here. I do not have a Decatur, St. Teresa, Urbana score. I have looked everywhere that I know of to try to find it at this point. Okay. Looks like that game was in a weather delay. So it's understandable that I can't find it. So I'm going to write that down on the sheet. Okay, I know that the Springfield Champaign Centennial game was canceled. Now we're into the Black Diamond Conference. Okay. White County with a 36-20 win over Flora. Do not see an El Dorado score. Johnston City wins 62-0 over Christopher. And then I need a Cesar score. Got that as well, 22-6. Okay. So, I'm going to do a couple of checks here for the one that I'm missing. El Dorado wins 22-20. Okay, so we're through the Black Diamond on to the Cahokia. Okay, so then I saw that score earlier, but I don't remember it, so I got to look it up. Dupo loses 12-44 to St. Louis Bayless. Chester beats DuQuoin 35-27. That's a nice win for Chester there. DuQuoin goes down. Go back up to the top. Sparta and Madison. I thought I saw that one somewhere earlier too, but I can't remember. Okay, so now I got to go one more place here, see if I can find it. Nope, I'm not having any luck with Madison and Sparta right now. So I'm going to try one more place. Looks like the game is in a lightning delay. So I'm going to write that one down. All right, so let's move down here. Redbud with a 34-12 win over Pinckneyville. Okay, moving on. Still got Carlisle and Nashville. Nashville wins 52-8. Okay, trends on Saturday. Nashville 52-8. Okay. Now we're going to go to Lee Central and Highland. Thought I saw that one earlier, but maybe I did not. Breeze Central, 24-21 over Highland. That's a good win for Breeze Central. Okay. Highland. I'm a little rusty. This is week one for me too, so figuring this out a little bit at a time. Like I said, the weather's kind of slowing up my result compilations here too. All right, so Clinton wins 57-0. So now, moving through some of the smaller conferences at the top here. And once I get through those, it should be a little bit easier to locate some of these other scores. Salem and Centralia. I don't think I saw that one anywhere. I did not. So let me go here, see if I can find it there. Not there. Centralia gets a 42-35 win there. Okay. Moving along ever so slowly here. Columbia 35-0 over Breeze Mater Dei. Wow. Nice bounce back there for them. Okay. So I'm going to go over to my Chicagoland scoreboard here, see what I can find out here. Because now I'm moving into getting the Catholic League schools put together. Okay. So Brother Rice wins 50-0 over Chicago Phillips. Okay. Next up. St. Ignatius. I have not seen anything on them tonight. Okay, so now we're going to try them, see if I can find the score of that one. Today, what's the date? Okay. Football. See if I can find St. Ignatius. St. Ignatius, big winner, 56-21 over St. Louis University. Okay, that's a Saturday game. I see Catholic won their game 27-26. I know that. St. Rita won 27-17 over Sandburg. Okay. All right, next up is more Catholic League scores. So St. Francis won 27-21 over Kenwood. Okay. So we've got most of the Catholic League schools that played tonight in here. Nice win for Romeoville. Notre Dame edges St. Patrick 15-13. All right. I think DePaul beat Deerfield tonight. I think I remember seeing that. Yes, 35-28. Nice win for DePaul. It's a program that I think might be able to figure out a way to get into the playoffs, especially after that win. I think they were a little bit on the rise at the end of last year. See if that can carry over. A rough opener for De La Salle tonight. They got beat 45-0 by Argo. Okay. I know Marmion won in the last minute, but I can't remember the score. So I got to go find that. Okay. Moving along pretty good here, guys. Doesn't seem like it, but it's coming together. 21-15. Oak Forest. Loser in that one. 15-21. All right. So moving up, we've got still a few more Catholic League scores to put in here. Carmel won big. I do remember that. Okay. So got to do a little bit of digging here to find the actual score. I know that Carmel did win the game. $48-7 for Carmel in this one. Grays Lake Central. On the short end of that one. Okay. So next up, got to find if St. Lawrence got their game in tonight. They did, 72-8. Montini was a winner. I do know that. $49-0. Hyde Park was the loser in that one. 49. Okay. Next up, I think we're through the Catholic League now. That's a Saturday game. Yep. Into the Central State 8. So, okay. All right, so let me check over here. Cater Eisenhower lost to Streeter, 20-12. To 20. Streeter's in the State 8. Okay. Next up is Lincoln, Springfield Lanphier. Lincoln wins that one, 32-0. 32. Saturday postponed. Quincy and Quincy Notre Dame. I don't think that's right, Max Preps. I think Quincy won that game 90-6, and they're in the third overtime. I do not think that is right. Okay. 40-12. That seems more likely. Okay. About 30% down to score input, but like I said, it'll start coming together a little bit faster as we move into the second half of this. Jacksonville and Pittsfield. 26-14 for Jacksonville. Pittsfield loses that one. Kudos to Pittsfield for playing that one. That was a game that was made up when Riverton dropped their season. They had a much larger school there. Did a nice accounting for themselves. Okay, Southeast and East Peoria. Having trouble finding that one, so I'll check a couple other places. East Peoria, 28-26. So, all right. So right now, the two scores that I have not been able to find are St. Teresa and Urbana, Madison and Sparta. Those are both games that I believe have some sort of weather delay. I do not know if they were completed or suspended into Saturday. So if anybody has any insight on either of those two games, that would be appreciated. East Peoria, 28-26. Okay. So now we're out of the Central State 8. Moving to the Central Suburban North. Grease Lake North beats Vernon Hills, 14-35. So Grays Lake North, your winner there. Okay. Then we've got Highland Park and Leiden, excuse me. That's an interesting game. Highland Park losing that one. So they get that one on the board. That's an early win for Leiden. Okay. Niles North. Wow, nice public league win right there. Okay. St. Teresa, thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Boilers look good tonight. Did you go? Okay. So now moving through the Central Suburban Conferences. Maine East wins that one 34-6. East Aurora's in the upstate. Okay. Riverside Brookfield. I believe they won tonight. They did. Riverside Brookfield, 34-13. Okay. So now New Trier, Naperville North. So New Trier lost that one 14. Yeah, I went over and watched a practice, Alex, and I thought they looked pretty fast too. Glenbrook North and Lane. $14-7. Lane hanging in there. Okay. All right. So then next up, we're still moving through the Central Suburban here. Evanston beats Zion Benton 41-20. Now, thanks to Alex, I'm just down to one score right now that I haven't been able to track down. It's Madison and Sparta. Last I saw, they were in a lightning delay early in the fourth quarter. That was about an hour and a half ago. So that's the only game, as I move through the list here, that I have not been able to locate the score status for. So that's where we're at. Like I said, I'm probably about 40% done with score collection right now. Lincoln Way East with the big win over Maine South. Once again, as of right now, Lincoln Way East does not have a week 2 opponent, so we won't see the Griffins again until week 3. So that'll be interesting. They will receive a forfeit win, though, so they will move to 2-0. A team from Florida was supposed to play them at the East St. Louis Classic, but they backed out of the game, so they are not coming. And like I said, they will get a forfeit win out of that. Okay, I am trying now to locate Elgin St. Edward and Aurora Central Catholic. That is one that I cannot currently find. Never mind, I just found it. St. Edward loses 20-8. Okay. So now we're into the Chicagoland Christian. I know that Wheaton Academy lost tonight to that team from Texas that they played. Don't remember the score, but I'm going to find that real quick. Second Baptist, Houston Second Baptist was their name. They lost 17-19. Okay. Aurora Christian defeated Ottawa Marquette tonight. Good win for them. 24-19. Chicago Prairie. Okay, I believe that Richmond Burton won. $21-7. Okay, Richmond Burton. Right there. Excellent. Moving right along. Okay, this one I bet you is going to be tricky to find. Yep. Okay, I'm on the hunt for Christ the King and Walter Christian. Okay, so that is one that I need right now. 2 scores missing: Madison Sparta, Christ the King, and Walter Christian. feeling that that game may have been moved to Saturday. Might be right about that. Nope, it's still listed as Friday. So Christ the King and Walter Christian is a score that I'm looking for. Still no luck. Okay. Well, the next one I got to put out is sitting right there on my screen for me. Thank you, Levi. Seneca, 43-22 winner. Okay, Marquette got that one. St. Bede and Tri-Valley. St. Bede lost 16-22. Tri-Valley 22-16. Okay. All right. So now we've got that's a Saturday game. That's a Saturday game. Lincoln Park and Lindblom. Be surprised if I can find that one. Oh, there it is. 41-0. Made a liar out of me. Lincoln Park over Lindblom, 41-0. Okay. So, moving along pretty good here. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Week 1, week 2 are the hardest ones to do in this process. Non-conference weeks are very difficult. Thank you, Alex. So now the only score I'm looking for, Christ the King, Walter Christian. Thanks, Paul. Got that St. Teresa Urbana score. All right, so then we've got looking for Bremen and Taft from tonight. I believe they played, but I got to dig it out. Taft, 35-7 winner. Good showing for the public league tonight, actually. A couple wins over non-public league schools. That happens very infrequently. I think I've already seen 3 of them. Okay. So I think that is the only Prosser and TF North. That is the next one. Then we're pretty close to done with public league schools. Okay, so I'm on the hunt for Prosser and TF North now. Found it. 40-0 TF North. So did you find something that had it finished, Alex? I see the previous message says it will resume play tomorrow. Okay. All right, Geneseo and Comer. 48 now. So Geneseo a winner. If you have that, Paul, I would greatly appreciate that. I've kind of been piecing together a list as I go here. I believe I have 9 games on that. Okay, so Westmont loses 8 to 12. So I think we're pretty close to getting through the public league here. Okay. Thank you, Alex. That will spare me the trouble of trying to chase that one down. So right now, the only one that we're missing is Christ the King and Walter Christian. So I'm trying to also find, just found that one. I'm going to not even say it because it's right there. Hansberry wins 22-0. So I am through the public league and into the Duquesne. I know Wheaton Warrenville South won that game tonight. Nice effort from them. They win 35-10 over Glenbard South. Okay. So right now I've inputted for the first 170 teams on my sheet and also inputted the bottom ones down. So I would say we're probably at about 60% right now. Thank you, Paul. That's very helpful. Okay. Glenbard North with a 17-0 win over Bartlett. That's a good start for Glenbard North. Okay, next up, go back to the Duquesne for some more. St. Charles North, a thrilling win over Palatine tonight. Scored on a 2-point conversion late in that contest. 28-27 win. Good win for the North Stars over a Palatine team that I expect to be pretty solid. Okay. Moving along here. St. Charles East lost to Lincoln Way Central. 56-40. Okay, more Duquesne's here. Conant Lake Park. Lake Park. Big win, 41-14. Looks like the Duquesne went 6-1 tonight. Good start for that conference. Okay. So as I finish off the Duquesne, that will put us into the Fox Valley. Dundee Crown with a win over Crystal Lake South tonight. Nice win there for them. Huntley over Crystal Lake Central. Cary Grove, 27-3 over Burlington. Okay, that's good to go. Prairie Ridge, 17-0 over Jacobs. All right, on to the Heart of Central Illinois, large division. Let's see what we got here. I know there was a couple of postponements. So I'm going to put those in right now. Saturday. Okay. So now, looking for Ridgeview and Gibson City. All right, right now, like I said before, we have one score that we do not have. And that is Christ the King and Walter Christian. So, everybody else to this point, to this stage in the sheet, I found them from somewhere. So good progress for week one. Usually we're missing a lot more than this at this point in time, especially considering the weather. So, although I am having trouble finding this Gibson City Ridgeview score right now. There it is. Gibson City with a low-scoring 7-0 victory over Ridgeview. Deer Creek Mackinac wins 58-28 over Hamilton West Hancock. There's Tremont out. They got that one. About Shelbyville and Newton. 42-28 for Shelbyville. Newton. Okay, El Paso Gridley 23-6 over Reed Custer. Thank you, Paul. I didn't think we were going to get that one tonight, to be honest with you. Okay. Heading back up here to the heart of Illinois, still working my way through that one. Eureka and Canton. Eureka wins 34-8. Okay. Leroy game got moved to Saturday. Do we have a field crest score? Small division now. Yes, we do. Fieldcrest loses 34-28 in that one. Hayworth wins 42-0 over Fisher. Warrensburg Latham, nice win for them over Tuscola. 20-8. Okay, on to the Illini Prairie. Okay, starting to see a little bit of progress here. I'm going to say we're about half done. Okay, so now Paxton, a 40-13 win over IBC. Toronto Unity, 32-13 over Prairie Central. St. Joe Ogden and Monticello are playing on Saturday now. Bloomington Central Catholic wins 42-7. Grand Tool game got moved to Saturday. So now we're done with that conference. On to the Illinois Central 8. I think Lyle beat Harvard. Nope, the other way around. Harvard beat Lyle. 7-42. $42-7. All right. Then I got the other ones in here. Let's see. Hershey got beat by Chicago Christian. How'd Chicago Christian look, Paul? Tino beat Sandwich 54-32. Piatone beats Noble Luchin 55-14. City loses to Morris. Hung in there pretty good though. Morris got away late. Okay. So now we're into the independents. Okay, like I said before, still looking for one. We have one loose score right now. Morris plays Joliet West next week. Joliet West was a winner tonight over Shepherd. Okay. So now I'm moving through the independent schools. This takes a little while because I don't have a true conference affiliation on some of the sites. So I got to trick my way through it a little bit. Collinsville and Belleville East. That's a Southwestern. Okay. Starting to get into a little pinch here with Collinsville and Belleville East. Oh, just found it. Never mind. It's 1530. Belleville East, 3015. Okay. Keep on moving through the independents here. All right. Okay, starting to run out of options here for Alton and Belleville Altoff. Never mind, that has been moved to Saturday. Okay. Still moving through the independents. Takes a few minutes. Marquette. It's down there by Civic Memorial. Okay. Now we're at almost the last of the independents here. Okay, looks like I'm going to have a request here in a minute. I'm going to check my other sources here. Nope, I found it. Okay. Casey Westfield beats Red Hill 24-0. Okay. Got it. All right, moving along pretty good. Still sitting with one missing score. Walter Christian, Price the King. And now we are into the Interstate 8. So Plano beat Ottawa. Sycamore beat DeKalb. That looked like a fun game up at Northern Illinois University. Sycamore with an interception at the end of the game that sealed that one. It's a fun rivalry between those two schools. Okay. So now we're back up here again. South Peru won tonight. South Peru won 18-16 over East Moline United. Okay. Next up, more fun from the Interstate 8. Rochelle, pretty sure they beat Woodstock tonight. There it is, 39-20. Okay. Canelan beat Washington 20-14. Now on to the Kishwaukee. So Woodstock North and Elmwood Park. 69-22 Woodstock North. Okay. Park loses. Once again, the only score that I'm missing right now, Christ the King and Walther Christian. Everybody else so far been able to dig out. Elmwood Park loses 22-69. Okay. So let's go up here. Moringa. (24-17) over Evergreen Park. All right. Evergreen Park is right there, 17-24. All right, so I think we're through the Kishwaukee now. We are on to the Lincoln Prairie. Okay, this is where it gets a little tricky. These are some of the scores that I think might have had some weather issues tonight, so these might not come in as clean as some of the other ones. Arthur with a 30-10 win over Oriana. Okay. Cerro Gordo and Cumberland. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, so as of this moment, I have not been able to locate out of my many sources Cerro Gordo and Cumberland. So now we are at 2 games that I'm missing. Cerro Gordo and Cumberland, Christ the King and Walter Christian. Sangamon Valley wins 49-0. Oakland Tri-County. Sullivan wins 36-12. And then Comus beats Arcola 27-10. All right, so after we get through there, we got 2 games missing. Christ the King, Walter Christian, and Cerro Gordo and Cumberland. You found what, Alex? Which one? Found the Cerro Gordo game, I'm assuming? Because I don't think anybody found the Christ the King, Walter Christian game. Holy crap, you did find it. Where in the world did you find that? Fascinating. All right. So courtesy of Alex, we're back down to 1 again. Cerro Gordo and Cumberland. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Okay. Doing pretty good here, actually. Feel good about how few we're missing at this point in time. Okay, Macomb wins 49-8. I had that one. Bureau Valley wins 48-21. Farmington wins 33-0. Elmwood Brimfield over Knoxville. That's a nice win for Elmwood. Okay. So now we'll move to the Lincoln Prairie Small. Over 42-36. Stark County wins 27-6. Princeville 38-12. Weathersfield 42-0. Okay. On to the little Illini. Swiftly moving through these. Okay. Paris and North Vermilion. Saw that score early on. I don't know if they finished there. Okay. About to add another one to the list here. Okay, Paris and North Vermilion, Indiana. Mount Carmel lost 6-42. Saturday, that's a Saturday. And win-win. Okay, now we're in Mid-Illini. Pekin, 28-14. Robbie Gold loses his first game as a high school head coach. Dunlap beats Galesburg 48-0. Okay. I'm really moving along nicely here, guys. Probably in the neighborhood of about 70 more scores to find. And for it to be 12:30 in week 1, that's extremely fast. 26-55. Gurney Warren, 55-26. All right. North Chicago and Wheeling. Chicago wins that one 32-0. Okay, got to find Wheeling in here. North Chicago is a winner, 32-0. Okay. So now, getting close to that 300 team mark on my sheet, which means we're really moving along nicely. Okay, like I said, we got 2 scores missing, Cerro Gordo and Cumberland, Paris and North Vermilion, Indiana. Buffalo Grove loses 24-35 to Hoffman Estates. Prospect and Lions, 38-21. They lose every game. Yeah, the Mid-Suburban East lost every game they played tonight. 0-6. It's 38-21. I think Roe Clark will play. I think they just they forfeited that game against IC Catholic because either they didn't have enough players just yet or realized that it was going to be a wildly uncompetitive game. So sometimes some of the smaller public league schools, since they don't start school until Labor Day, after Labor Day, they have a hard time getting those teams together for week 1 contests because they're not in school yet. I think there were 3 or 4 actually across the public league that forfeited or dropped out of games. That's why Leo was playing Genoa Kingston. They were scheduled to play Julian originally, and Julian bowed out of that game. So that's why that ended up being that game. So that's a nice win for Schaumburg over Antioch tonight. A very rare 0-1 start for Antioch. I can't honestly remember the last time they were 0-1 out of the gate. Barrington really impressive tonight, piling up points on South Elgin. Yeah, I would guess that Roe Clark will play once they get into conference. They've been a fairly consistent participating program in years past. I just know when they scheduled that game, my immediate reaction was that's going to be kind of sloppy and messy. So it didn't surprise me when they bowed out. Okay. Lincoln Way Central. Yeah, that was a kind of a wild one tonight with St. Charles East. It seemed like it was going really back and forth. Good for Lincoln Way Central that they were able to put that many points up on the board, but a little worried about the defense. Gave up a lot tonight to a St. Charles East team that has struggled to put up points. So maybe St. Charles East has improved. It's still early in the season. You can't account for that, but a good showing for the offense. I know when I talked to Coach a week or two before the season, he had said that one of his concerns was that they didn't have their excellent kicker from a year before, a kicker punter, that kind of helped them control field position. So it looked like tonight both teams were kind of all over the field. So it'll be interesting moving forward to see how Lincoln Way Central does. I know, like I said, Coach said that was a concern of his, is that they'd done such a nice job last year in kind of that breakout season for them of controlling field position. So moving forward, they're going to probably have to figure out a way to tighten that up a little bit. But a good sign that they were able to put up a lot of points tonight, though, because I know they had some new guys on offense, and we're trying to figure out what they were going to do. So a good first step offensively, but obviously probably gave up a few more points than they would have liked. All right, so now I'm in the Mississippi Valley Conference, so that means we're really starting to move along nicely, because I can see those S conferences on my board, and that means we're getting closer to done. So let's see here. Waterloo 35-28 over Mount Vernon. The Roxana Jersey game got moved to Saturday. I do know that. Okay. So, still moving through the Mississippi Valley. So that conference will be done once I get the Southwestern score put in here. 421. Okay. So out of the M conferences and into the M's, we got most of the North Suburban scores already in here. So when we start to flip it a little bit, especially in the non-conference week. Looks like Grant, 742. All right. So Lamont, Libertyville. I know that Libertyville won comfortably, 43-0. I'd say that's comfortable. Good win. Good solid win to start there for Libertyville. Lamont might have a little bit of problems here. Got a tough Geneva team next week. Okay. Next up. Still working our way through the North Suburban here. Lake Forest and Lakes. Lake Forest won that one 35-12. Lakes. Okay. Now we're into the Northern Illinois. Moving along nicely here. $60-70 games left to find here, so Freeport lose. Rockford Boylan squeaking out a win tonight over Freeport. 14-13. That one. Belvedere North wins 29-0. Guilford. Omega 48-6 over Auburn. Okay. So through that conference, on to the Northern Lake County. West Chicago, 42-0 Round Lake over Round Lake. West Chicago. Broke through last year, got a playoff berth, hoping to keep climbing the ladder in the Upstate 8. Honda, 44-34 over Hinsdale South. Okay. Still missing 2 games. Paris, North Vermilion, Cerro Gordo, and Cumberland. Now we are at the Northwest Upstate Illini. So Eastland Pearl City with a 22-6 win over Galena tonight. Dupac 32-26 over Stockton. Lena Winslow 32-6 over new conference member Morrison. Fulton. That is a strong result for the Fulton Steamers tonight over Forreston. 28-0 win in that one. Dakota plays tomorrow. Sangamo, New Berlin, and Pleasant Plains got moved. Athens and Borough Forsyth got moved. Williamsville beat Auburn 56-27. Okay, I would say we're at about 50 games right now that are left on the board. Not many. Olympia beats 55-40. Okay, on to the Southern Illinois River, Mississippi Division. Benton over Carterville, 41-0. Okay. Redbud already put that one in. Nashville already put that one in. Loss. West Frankfort, big win over Massac County, 51-7. And Anna Jonesboro loses 47-0 to Harrisburg. Murfreesboro. Who did they play? They played Carbondale in a non-con. Okay, Carbondale beats Murfreesboro by 3. Okay. Really moving along nicely here. South Central Conference. Okay, Carlinville 37. (22) over Litchfield. Greenville 36-7 over Stone. Gillespie and Southwestern on Saturday. Hannah wins over Vandalia. Okay. So Southwestern and Gillespie are tomorrow. Let's move down to the South 7. I know that Cahokia won big. Just don't remember the score. right, still 2 games missing. Paris, North Vermilion, Indiana, Cerro Gordo, and Cumberland. As we move down near the bottom of the list. Okay. Now I am in the South Suburban. It's 40-0. Tinley Park beats Thornridge 50-0. Okay. 50-0. 28. That's a Saturday. Now we're into the South Suburban Red. Richards wins 27-26 over Crete Moni. That is a nice win for Richards. Shepherd loses to Joliet West. 15-36. 15-36. Joliet West, 36-15. Okay. Very good. Okay. Next up is Oaklawn loses to Romeoville. Yes, I am looking for Paris. And if Cumberland was moved to Saturday, that makes sense. So right now, Paris and North Vermilion is the only score on the board that we need. Thornwood and Andrew. I'm sure I know the result to that. Just want to confirm it. 6:53. Okay. So that's probably a Saturday too. 53-6. So okay. So I'm going to go up and put Paris on a Saturday. All right. Now currently the list is empty. I like that. I'm sure I'll find one here. I'm confident. We'll get one. Okay. Got it. Thanks, buddy. So now we have no games on the sheet. But then as soon as I say that, I find one. Thornton and Berwyn, Cicero, Morton are missing. So now we have one game. Thornton and Berwyn, Cicero, Morton. Thank you, Alex. Out of curiosity, where did you find that one? Okay. So now, oh boy, I'm enjoying this string of messages. Okay, Homewood Flossmoor beats Bolingbrook 56-6. Okay. Yeah, I use that one when I can. Sometimes they're a little wacky too. ScoreStream sometimes has a few that I need. I'll give them credit. They also have weird ones where they don't have a game listed at all, which is always fun. Okay. Valley, 7:30. Let's see Oswego East. Bonzi wins 14-0 over Oswego East. Yeah, we're getting real close here, guys. This is a pretty good run, to be honest. Okay. I want to say I'm probably down to about 30 games right now. And then we'll have everything. Hinsdale Central. 13-24. Okay, so we're through that conference. Now moving into the Southwest Prairie. Keegan beat Plainfield Central. It's 14-16. Okay, let's go back and make sure I put Waukegan's score in. I did. All right. Plainfield South beat Yorkville 3-0. I do remember that one. Romeoville beat Oklahoma 47-34. Okay. Paducah beats Rock Island 49-14. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Getting pretty close. Into the Three Rivers Conference, so really coming on the backside here. It's about 30 games more to go. Okay, Oregon beats Hall 42-14. Riverdale with a win over Mendota. Princeton with the win over Newman. Kewanee loses to Erie. Girard loses to Rockridge. And Monmouth hangs 50 on Mercer County. Okay. So that is done. Now we move into the Upstate 8. And most of these already too. From earlier results. Just a handful of conferences left. I think it's 8 now, 8 or 9. Fenton with a win over Elgin tonight. Okay. 35-14. Addison Trail beat Streamwood. Aurora. West Aurora beats Proviso East 53-0. Okay. And then Glenbard East and Willowbrook. Glenbard East over Willowbrook. It's a good win for them. Okay. So those are all done. So Fork and Westville's gone to Saturday. Sika beats Georgetown Ridge Farm 42-20. Nuts beats Oakwood 40-12. Bismarck beats Clifton Central 21-8. Okay, I'm looking for Iroquois West and Hoopston. Iroquois West and Hoopston right now is the lone game on the list. Okay. So now I'm all the way down into the West Suburban Conference. Most of those games are already in there because now I've moved all the way down to the Western Big Six. So I can see the bottom of the list now. We are at less than 10 games. Moline wins a 41-40 thriller over Rockwood Summit out of Missouri. Nice win. And that was the only Western Big Six game I was missing input for. So West Central beats Unity 50-22. 22-50. Greenfield 6-0 over Brown County. 6. All right, North Green 69-0. Okay, so now I'm looking for Pleasant Hill and Triopia. Okay, so by my count, missing Iroquois West and Hoopston, missing Triopia, and Pleasant Hill. Those are the only ones. All right. Got 82 teams scheduled to play on Saturday, and 2 games that are missing from Friday night slate: Iroquois West Hoopston, Triopia, and Pleasant Hill. So that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Really not too early to break anything really down, but thanks for hanging out with me and looking for scores. I appreciate it. We'll see you same time next week. Night, guys.